J Jinx!
Truck stop!
And we're back. Some of the other places that I went on my road trip to get knives, besides Walmart, were the following. Smoky Mountain Knife Works, yes. It was about 3 hours from where I was staying, one way. So I spent about an hour, hour and a half in there. So basically 7.5 to 8 hours of an entire day was spent traveling out to, visiting, and then returning from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Worth it. Well, to start with, I swung by the Cold Steel area and picked up a couple of cheap fixed blades because they looked interesting, and it's Cold Steel. They're not too expensive, but they're made really well. I really like that about Cold Steel. I'll tell you something else. What I appreciate about Smoky Mountain Knife Works is I noticed this the last couple of times I visited the place, that they tend to employ a lot of people who are otherwise kind of disadvantaged in some way. Lots of very, very elderly, basically retired people. There was people with autism who worked the registers, and I really finding a place like that, especially in a deep red state like Tennessee, which has some of the most crime-ridden cities in the entire world, by the way. It's really wholesome to see something like that, so I appreciate that about Smoky Mountain Knife Works. And so off my soapbox and back with the knives, this is the Cold Steel Secret Edge. And I was drawn to it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I like the whole look that Cold Steel has. Kind of that combination of black G10 with a satin finish really does it for me, and they have a lot of products just like that. Also, just the way that this thing is shaped, and with the really subtle jimping on the top there, this reminded me a lot of a see-and-do, which is a traditional Scottish knife that people wear with kilts for reasons. Anyway, it's also an incredibly thin blade. It's pretty much the blade stock, and then a little bit more for the scales, which are knurled in this kind of brick pattern, which that's a neat look. That reminds me of like an old Macintosh pattern from way back in the day. And you got speed holes, 3 of them, and they're chamfered all the way through. Kind of reminds me of like a diving knife. So there are a lot of things. I just looked at this and my brain said, like it, like it, like it, like it, and I bought it. It is a pointy little thing, kind of a spear point shape, but only one edge is actually sharpened. And checking out the consistency there. Oh gosh, yeah. There's something about that buttery smoothness that some blades exhibit when you rub it with wood. Alright, we'll do the paper thing. Oh, that's wonderful. A couple of things that seem to be absent, however, is on the sheath, there's nothing that you can use to secure this with, except for the hollow rivets going around the perimeter of the thing. There's no clip, there's no slot to slide it onto a belt. This is what you get, and then you can either lash it down through the holes, or that's it. That's all you get. And one thing I'm curious about is, will it slip in both ways? Because it's very symmetrical. And it does. So you can put this in right side up or upside down. They are both right side up, I guess. And the way it's secured into this sheath, you can see it's got this dimple that actually secures the knife into place by holding it through one of the speed holes. And it works really, really well. This is very secure. The materials involved are plastic, but I know Cold Steel has a name for it. Let's see if I can find it on here. AUS 8A steel, 2.4 ounces. Securex sheath is what they're calling it. Usually they have a funky name for the plastics that they use. Grivex or Grivex. There it is. It's plastic. This one is the Kyoto 2, and it is made using 8CR14 MOV steel. And the handle material is Cray-X, which is plastic. But it's very, very rubbery, like super rubbery, which I love. That's just a comfy, squishy feeling. And of course, this is kind of a East Asian inspired design. Kind of looks like a mini wakizashi. I'm sure there's a word for it. But the Kyoto 2, which presumably the Kyoto 1 is a larger version. Also, you can tell of the inspiration for the design based on the way they molded the handle. That's kind of gives it a handle wrap that you might see in a katana or something like that sort of look. But this is all rubbery. And we got a brass rivet for a lanyard hole. And the guard is also really nice. I like the heavily chamfered. It's like it's a very soft looking metal guard. I like that, matte finish there with the shiny blade. Unlike the Secret Edge, you can only put this in one way, which is fine. That's normal. And the sheath secures the knife in place with these kind of slots pressed into the plastic, which slip around the guard. Does have a rattle though, so the Securex sheath isn't quiet, but it works pretty well. Another knife I picked up. I always try to make my way around at the back where the Essie blades are. Right near there, they've got one of the most endearing knife companies around, Frost Cutlery. And I noticed they had a bunch of boxes out that had this kind of red background. It was very recognizable to me. Steel Warrior, which is a line of Frost Cutlery knives. This is an older model, the Choctaw. I don't know how old this box is, but that is older art, but it could be a reissue. I don't know. It's such a cheapo knife company, who really cares? But $13 for a Choctaw, and I even like the scales. This is called something patriotic. The God Bless America Choctaw. America doesn't really deserve that right now, but you got the Steel Warrior waxy paper, and here's the Choctaw. I have a few of these already. Bust out one of them that I carried and used, also Steel Warrior branded. I remember seeing these a lot on TV growing up on the Cutlery Corner network, and I thought it was kind of interesting looking even back then before I collected knives. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's no freaking way that's comfortable. But as I've shown in some review videos from years past, it is surprisingly comfortable. So I've got a few of these already, and I spotted this one with like the swirly, kind of sparkly blue pattern. There's like some gray and a touch of red and some white. I guess that's what makes it, patriotic. But one of the things I also like about the Choctaw is the big, bold bolsters, both up here at the pivot and then one down at the bottom. It's a backlocked blade, half stop, very shiny, very cheap, but surprisingly comfortable. You'll be sharpening the steel a lot because it is 440 stainless steel, which was the golden standard back in the 80s and 90s. It is scoffed at today because it's not a super steel with an acronym or a made-up trade name. And you know what I'm also noticing? Usually on these Frost cutlery knives, they have this yellow and orange sticker that shows the Rockwell scale, and they point it to a little dimple, which is where they actually tested the hardness. And that dimple is absent on this blade, unless it's like under the sticker. And it's just a gimmick. When the hardness is tested on blades, when that's done, they usually do it like somewhere down closer to the pivot where you're not going to see it. But Frost Cutlery oddly decided, no, we're actually going to point it out. This actual blade was tested. But it seems like they're just putting the stickers on it now. They're not they're not doing the thing. That's kind of funny. I'm going to leave the sticker on there just to remind myself, like, They still put the sticker there, so I don't disbelieve them, but yeah, that usually points to the little dimple that they test the hardness with. Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, that is the patriotic red, white, and blue swirly, shiny, sparkly Choctaw. Before I set out for Smoky Mountain Knife Works, the buddy that I was staying with on my vacation, I was like, hey, do you want me to pick you up a knife while I'm out there? And he was like, yeah, he's not a knife guy. He's like, maybe something for my car, something that can cut a seatbelt. And on my way out, I spotted a really interesting looking knife made by Smith & Wesson. A little bit on the expensive side for Smith & Wesson, $65. Never bought a Smith & Wesson knife for that much money before. But it was so cool that I was like, I'm going to get 2 of them. I have to have one for myself. And so I gave him the knife. It was cool. He loved it. And then I brought this all the way home. And then when I opened it, I realized, oh, that is not the same knife. This one has this absurdly recurved edge with very pronounced serrations and kind of a tanto-ish swedgy thing going on. So still kind of goofy, but nowhere near as goofy looking as the one that I got for him. And obviously what happened was that this box was in a stack. And the one that I wanted got mixed up with, well, this model here. But I'm not too mad because it's still kind of goofy looking, you know? So anyway, why in the would anybody pay that much money for a knife by Smith & Wesson? Well, let me tell you. This is an open-assisted knife that looks like something freaking RoboCop would use. I'm sold already. There's a lot going on here, so let's just take it a step at a time. Start by just looking at the design of the thing. There's a lot of accent things going on in the handle. We have these stepped ridge things, kind of makes it look like a vent of some kind. The Smith & Wesson logo. There's a safety switch, so you can, deactivate the flipper mechanism. There's a dimple kind of going around concentrically around the pivot screw. And we have a pocket clip that looks like it's pretty well designed. This is actually a little different than what I usually see, where it comes up and then gradually down and then up and out. But it's angled first before the step up and out. I think that'll work really well. I haven't actually slipped this into my pocket yet, but I think that's a well-designed pocket clip. Having a look at the blade, it's got an interesting deployment mechanism. You have, it's kind of a flipper tab, and it has some very rough jimping all the way around it. And it doesn't actually, it's a separate piece from the blade. I'll show you what I mean. When this thing deploys, this doesn't kind of swing all the way around to the other side. It actually stays where it is. See that? So it's an actuator, but separate from the actual blade. And as I said, it's got this, we already kind of looked at the blade a little bit, Tanto, serrated recurve Tanto thing. It is goofy enough that I still like this knife. And it is a liner locked knife. The lockup could be better, actually. That's it's hard to see, but yeah, that could be better. I think it's on bearings. It's hard to say. Actually, it feels a bit too rough to be bearings, and it doesn't matter. It's open assisted. It doesn't need bearings, and the spring tension is really, really tight. Then you might notice there's some other mechanistic looking things going on back here, and there's a massive hole in the back, and that's for the glass breaker. Watch this. Yeah, so the idea is you hold the back of this thing flush against a window, and then you flip this lever and it springs out and shatters the window. To reset it, if you look back here, you've got this exposed spring and a little slot for the gray lever to slip through, so you kind of charge it back like that. And that resets the thing. There is no safety switch or anything like that, which makes me a little bit nervous. And also the piston part is kind of actually exposed right there, along with the spring. So there are things about this I find questionable. Like that could, I guess if you just throw it in your glove compartment for emergencies, it's fine. But if you carry this thing around, that's going to get loaded with lint, and there's no good way to clean it that I can see without just picking the whole thing apart. It also makes me a little nervous that this thing could come out with so much force, like you could really hurt yourself if it goes off accidentally. And that's how much of a dimple it put into the cardboard. Which doesn't look like much, but I'm pretty sure that would hurt. Comfort-wise, it is not comfortable at all. Having all that mechanism built in back here causes this swell down at the bottom, which, unlike the Choctaw, does not work very well for this knife. Maybe if you had really big, beefy, like Andre the Giant style hands, this would be comfortable, but it's just too wide in the handle. Definitely a bit overpriced. But it was that unique factor that led me to it. I got a couple of knives from Marbles. I've had my eye on these for a long time. It is the Marbles Geek.
Geek. What is a geek?
So what makes this thing a geek? Well, it's because of what the handle scales are made from. The Marbles Geek is a trapper. And Marbles, that's a brand that I don't have a huge number of their knives, but I really, really like them, and they are actually pretty damn good quality for the money. I don't have enough experience with trappers to say this is a great quality trapper or not, but just as a folding slip joint knife, I can tell you the usual particulars. The polish is pretty nice, and there's no gaps whatsoever. You got your spay and clip point blades, no play, half stops, and brass bolsters. That's pretty much it. It's the circuit board scales that really, really made me want to get one of these. Just acrylic cast over a little bit of a blue colored circuit board with all the transistors and capacitors and resistors and all that stuff, chips and whatnots removed. And if you look real closely at all the little metal bits, you can vaguely kind of make out some patterning looking shapes and stuff on them. And from what I understand about soldering is that those contact points might have been cleaned up when those little bits and pieces were removed to make this knife. Maybe. So my question is, did they actually cut up circuit boards to make these knives? Or did they make something that looks like a circuit board and put them into these knives? If it were the latter, then they would probably all look the same. And there's a lot of detail in here. You can see like the numbering and lettering going on. Like that seems like an awful lot of work to do something. There's like a part number or something here. To manufacture, to design and manufacture something like this to look the same every single time, it's a lot of work. I'd be impressed either way, frankly. But if it's the latter, how would you know? Like, how would you know that's an actual used circuit board, you know? Well, one way you might be able to tell is to buy it twice and see if they're different or not. So I haven't even looked at this one yet. This is going to be a surprise either way. So well, let's just see. Are these the same or are they different? Uh-huh. Yeah. Totally different. Well, that confirms it. I don't think they would go through the trouble of designing and manufacturing multiples of these bits that go into the acrylic molds that are cast into the acrylic, rather. I think these are actual legit circuit boards, and I kind of wonder, even with a partial product code or serial number or whatever that is, I wonder if I could find out what this came from. Also, the fact that in the advertisements for the Marbles Geek and all the ones that I've seen, they're all blue, and I know circuit boards come in different colors. Green is the classic color. They also come in like browns. I think it would have been cool if they had different colors available, like you could have the blue chipboards and yeah, etc., etc. But now we know the Marbles Geek is a recycled or upcycled, or however you want to put it, bit of circuit board put into your knife handle. What am I going to do with both of these? Well, I was thinking about picking the one that I think looks the coolest and actually giving it to my IT person at work, because a few months ago we were having an IT issue and he really came through, stayed late. I think we were there till like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, just fixing a computer that we desperately needed to work. And he went above and beyond. I wrote his boss a note telling him so, but then I was thinking, this would be a perfect gift for an IT guy. Going back to the Frost Cutlery area, I spotted a knife that I had actually had my eyes on for a long time. So Frost Cutlery puts out these big knives that have really intricate and interesting looking handles, usually Native American themed in the decorations. They're really inexpensive. They're very budget friendly, shall we say. Made by Chipaway Cutlery, which is a Frost Cutlery subsidiary. And it was just neat to kind of see them in person and handle them. And so I decided to buy this one, which is made using genuine bone handle scales. This was $20, and it's called the Wigwam Skinner, which I don't know if that means that it's a skinner used by wigwams or if it's used to skin wigwams, but it is a Chipaway classic. 10-inch overall skinning knife with high-quality stainless steel blade. Genuine bone handle scales, comes with a genuine leather sheath. And if you haven't heard before, genuine leather is actually a grade of leather, and it's really, really bad. So it sounds nice, but it ain't. And here's the knife. I like the spiral cut into the bone, and it's also just a neat look. I don't know what kind of bone this is. It could be human. But they basically just shoved the knife through it and cut the bone. I don't know. I doubt it's full tang. It's Frost Cutlery after all. But it's a very, very recurved, what would that be? A trailing point blade. You got the Chipaway Cutlery logo down here. Happy little Native American in a headdress. Comfort-wise, there's really not much to it. It's a very straight piece of handle to hold on to. It's rounded. It's fine. It's just fine. Ooh, I actually like the way my thumb goes perfectly into this kind of upswell right there. You got a brass guard and brass pommel, and there's a big chunk of the bone kind of missing right there, but they've painted it black. And actually, look at the spacer. I wonder what that's about. It's kind of a multi-layered looking effect. I didn't really notice that before. Is that also some kind of bone? I don't know. You got the same thing up here as well with that brass spacer. That looks like some kind of molded plastic swirly stuff. But pretty neat. Nice and shiny, well polished. Have a look at the sheath real quick. Never even bothered taking this out of the bag. Yeah. Well, it smells like leather, so I guess it is actual leather instead of that plastic stuff. You got the Chipaway Cutlery logo on there as well, pressed into the leather. That looks a little bit uncanny. And then some scroll work looking stuff stamped in there as well. This is just pretty standard for a cheap leather sheath. I like that sound. Of course, what I'm hearing is the other side of the riveted button rubbing against the steel. But it's a cool sound. And it does snap into place. I've had knives where they make the same sheath for multiple models, and some knives it doesn't actually fit with. Not in this case. The Chipaway Classic is well made. Just a few more to go. Also, in the marbles area, I spotted a whole bunch of different boxes printed like that, which delighted me because I have one of these. If you remember back from my fake SMKW monthly unboxing extravaganza that I did not that long ago, I got the exhibition grade giant toothpick knife, which I really liked. It was just really too big for me. But on the SMKW website, I could not locate any other of these exhibition grade marbles knives. I'm like, oh, I guess they made this one and that was that. That is not the case. You go to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, they have a bunch. Like, there were 5 models maybe, including this one. I only picked up one of them, but I kind of regret just not getting the whole collection, because I opened this up and played around with it a little bit, and holy crap, is it a great knife. It is a Stockman, done in the exhibition grade dark brown Colt 1911 handled knurled bone with brass bolsters, no gaps, and half stops, and the quality on this thing is fantastic. It was like $20-something, no more than 25, and I'm just so pleased with the quality of this thing. It's tight, all the good words. And in addition to the main clip point blade you have here, actually it's more of a drop point blade, you got a little spay blade on one end, and actually on the same end you got the pen blade. One of the interesting things about this knife is that, unlike a traditional Stockman where you have 3 blades running on 2 tracks and they sort of have to kind of curve around each other, and that causes rubbing a lot of times. This knife, all 3 blades get their own individual track, and there's no rubbing. It does make it a little bit thicker compared to a traditional small Stockman, but that's okay because I don't want it to be that thin. This is a good thickness for me for a knife this size. It is a small knife. Some of the other ones they had, there was a Trapper, not sure what else, I can't remember, but this was one of the smallest. I kind of wanted something to contrast against the size of the massive Texas toothpick. So I got the small one. They might have had a Peanut, but that was a bit too small. I really can't remember. And finally, I couldn't leave the place without going to the Rough Rider section, which, as you hopefully know, Rough Rider is the SMKW brand. It's near the marbles section as well, and I picked up a reserve knife. The Rough Rider reserve lineup has been so fantastic. I think I have like 4 from the reserve lineup now. It's pleasing every single time. This one, is there a copyright date or something? I think this is one of the older ones that, when I say older, maybe like a few years. The kinds that comes in a can. Whenever you get, there's some products that when you get it in a can like this, you know it's next level. GEC uses them, and it's the same with underwear.
Have you seen my new underwear? Zebra stripe.
And now they sell knives in tubes. So you get your little foam plug at the top. And getting into the thing, what is it that I got? Well, it's a canoe. So yeah, these Rough Rider reserves in the tube also come with a really big kind of lens cloth type stuff that show you that these are always built by hand and backed for life. And since I fell in love with the canoe knives that I have gotten from Rough Rider, when I saw that they made a reserved version, I just had to have it. It does have a pretty good polish, and the scales are this kind of, but they're made to look like, I don't know, some kind of a like bog oak or something like that, especially this side with those those gaps are there on purpose. They're made to look yeah, like it's wood, of like aged petrified wood, maybe, I don't know. It's a cool look. I can see there's a fit and finish issue up here though. Didn't notice that before. This is my first time actually looking at it much more closely. I don't know if that's like an issue with how the metal was molded, or if I'm looking at debris, because it's a similar color going on. I don't know. Anyway, so it's a canoe knife, a really thick one too. They really put a lot of space on the inside tracks of these knives, especially the canned ones I've noticed. It'd be a little bit more apparent when I open it up and we have a look on the interior. There's just plenty of room for those blades to sit into, and you can see the pins down there. It's kind of an open design in that way. It's pretty neat. The blades are also kind of unique. We have kind of a reverse Tanto drop point on one side. Same thing on the other, but it's a little more exaggerated. This is almost, I'd say that counts as sheep's foot. And they both have swedges, and there's the characteristic Rough Rider very pronounced half stop, which I like. Very snappy, of course, zero play. I'm a little disappointed in what could be the fit and finish issue that I didn't see in the store, but I'm willing to forgive it for that, because, you know, it is a Rough Rider at the end of the day. Not comfortable, though. The blade kind of sticks out quite a bit over the top compared to other canoe knives I've had, and I'm just feeling that blade right now when I hold this. Except for the part where it's not good. It's good. I just love the Rough Rider Reserve knives. They're so great, especially for the money. I think the most I've spent on a reserve knife was this one. On this one, it was I want to say it was like $40-something. That's very smooth. All right, let's try the paper thing for the paper enthusiasts. Trying to get the whole length. Super consistent. Very good. And you got that characteristic brass arrowhead shield as well. My goodness. Well, that was quite a journey. We went from Walmart to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and now I'm going to do a third video because we are not done. There's going to be a lot more here in about probably half an hour. Stay tuned for the third part.